All right, today I just want to talk about my first experience with anime. In case you didn't check the title, I don't hit me with no casual and all. Obviously, I am a casual. I said it's my first anime, so I'm gonna give you my little background, and I'll get into it. So I'll give you a reference point, and I might be off with this. I guess I could have checked, but I remember seeing the beginning of Pokemon, and I was in like between second and third grade, somewhere around there. Because third grade, I remember that's when the cards first started, and everybody was like, we was trading cards in the morning when we was lining up and everything. So I feel like I was there on ground zero. I saw Dragon Ball Z up until a certain point. Excuse me. Sailor Moon, maybe some others, but at that time they weren't considered animes, like, or they weren't marketed as that. We just watched them as cartoons, and that's how I looked at them. So I didn't really say anything. So I'm not counting that, because even if I knew it was anime, I wasn't old enough to really, I don't think, take it in and look at it as a different genre. So there's that. But up until then, I mean, all those shows I stopped while I fell off. Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, like all the very like early things. I think the last thing I saw in Dragon Ball Z was like Majin Buu. So I fell off that real early. So fast forward to now. I mean, anime has been taking it's been taking over for the last almost decade. It's become really popular in the black culture and all that, and it's everywhere. We could talk about the cultural impact of anime and all that, but for me, it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. I was like, and then, I'm probably a product of the time. Well, even though a lot of people my age and stuff like anime, but I was looking at it like, yo, this is different. Nah, like what are y'all into this Japanese stuff for? So totally out of my wheelhouse. But for those that are been around the channel, and if you're new, I'm very much about keeping an open mind and all that, being a continuous learner and all those good things. So to practice what I preach, even though I think growing up, I always put my stamp on like what wave I'm gonna be a part of and what I'm not. And it's not to hate. I don't go around telling people they shouldn't watch anime. I just was like, that's not my lane. That's not my wave. But to practice what I preach, I said, hey, I cannot say this is bad or whatever, or not for me, if I don't give it a try. And I think that goes for everything in life. So I said, I'm going to give it a try. And in my big age as an adult, I finally watched my first anime. Now this is a part where everybody's gonna leave. They're gonna be like, clickbait, I know, but if you stayed, thank you. I watched Hunter x Hunter, Hunter Hunter, whatever. I just call it Hunter, and I'm sure that's blasphemous. And again, I'll repeat, my experience besides that as an early person is RDC. I watch Anime House, I watch all that. I watch that so much and have no idea what they talking about. I be watching Anime House all the time. I get I think I get certain like popular anime zeitgeist references for the most part. And as y'all probably know, if you've seen the channel, I'm a big Avatar fan, but I don't consider it anime. I don't think anybody does. But so I get certain references of a little bit, but I am not by any means an expert on anything anime. So if that's blasphemous, and that's one thing I do see is crazy amount of gatekeeping with anime. Like not even gatekeeping, it's like people just have real strong opinions on different things in anime. So if that's blasphemous, or if I say something blasphemous, oh well, I don't mean it that way. But I call it Hunter because I don't see why I need to say all the other stuff. So anyway, that's what I watch. I watched, actually I started on Hulu, but I'm assuming it's the same between Hulu and Netflix. Saw those things, and up to whatever the season 6 is. I know people talk about them in arcs. And so I finished that maybe a week ago, almost 2 weeks ago, not sure. And it's been real tough to really digest and reflect on my feelings about it. And so I'll say this. For me, I am a writer. I didn't study writing and all that, but I know that here in America, and I don't know. I'll just say for America. I don't want to speak everywhere else. But here in America, like I said, there's a whole study of these things and a whole discussion as well in terms of any type of filmmaking, TV, and all that. So I know about the typical writing structures. Obviously, again, we know the old time writing structures and the hero's arc. We know or hero's journey. We know a lot of different conventions, but even when it comes here, again in America, there's structures for TV, a 30-minute, sitcom, and there's structures for a 3-act movie, for blah 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 blah. So there's as much as it's art, there's a little rhyme and reason to certain things. So for me, anime just completely goes against all the quote unquote rules that I know about writing. And I think that was what I struggle with the most, because in general, I think I start to realize, because as I've said before, anime and gaming, streaming, really, they've taken over the popular culture, like all the slang and stuff and everything. That's where it comes from now. So I get why peak became like a popular term out of anime, because it really is a roller coaster. And it's like, and I don't even want to say for like Hunter that it's all up and down. There's mostly up. Like if I was to say on enjoyment, did I enjoy more than I didn't? Absolutely, I enjoyed more than I didn't. But at the same time, it's very clear, like when we're in the middle of something that's really good and something that I guess again people call filler, or just it's not giving you as much creativity or whatever. But anyway, so I get kind of why they talk about peak. But even still, with that thought, the biggest issue that I had with the writing is they always say show, don't tell. Like if you are into any type of like the Oscar stuff, if you into the cinemas, and again, I understand culturally it's different. Like Bollywood is probably one of the first things that I know of, and I know in different areas cinema and entertainment is done differently. But again, from my exposure and from what I know, and from Hollywood, which is American, like you show, you don't tell, and over exposition is a bad thing. Like if you're watching a movie and the character stops and just explains everything, or exposition dumps, that's a huge negative if you were grading it. But in Hunter, it was very frequent. Now, also, I forgot to mention that I recognize this is only one anime. Again, I'm working off what I've seen from other things, whether it be skits and jokes, whether it be people discussing anime, whatever. And so some things I'm assuming are common to anime, and some things might be just exclusive to Hunter. I can't tell you 100%, but that's just what I'm working with. And I will kind of jump ahead and spoil. I do plan on watching another anime, but that's it. That's really it. If I feel the same way I felt about Hunter, I'll probably be out, because as much as is different, and I'm, happy to see different mediums and genres and takes, I think that's too hardwired in me to like not be distracted. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy things, Even like I liked it. Like if you watch Hunter, you know, like a lot of times they'll recap a fight scene or a battle or whatever, and it's, oh, he must have did this because he thought this, and but he didn't know that this was this. So when he did this, he figured out that. I'm like, I like that it's thought out, but as a writer, it's so hard for me to get over that. I'm like, why are you just explaining everything? And a lot of things with anime, because like I don't know. I know they did this in Dragon Ball Z and some other animes, so I'm thinking it's just an anime thing. They like to move like basically at lightning speed and do all those different crazy things. So I get that naturally. Okay, there's some things that you can't show because it's happening so fast, so we got to go back and recap it. And again, it's not a bad recap. It's just the fact that they're doing a recap throws me off. And so that is the number one thing I struggle with. And I've heard, again, the inner monologue is part of animes, and so seeing those things, but to see how frequent it was just a little too much. Because acting, again, I think, and I don't remember the term, because obviously we're Western, so obviously in America, but I think very much in Europe too. When you're talking about in terms of acting is all about showing the emotion, showing the nuance, conveying what you're feeling without having to say it. Those are the best actors, when you can act with your face and eyes. And so if you're watching a movie or show here in America and they stop and go inside their head and they just explain everything, that's usually not good writing. So it was hard for me to accept that, I think, in a lot of different moments throughout Hunter. So that was probably one of the big things. But what makes me so confused is that even as I say that, the way they express things are so like creative. And again, having, watched Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that, there's certain things that I'm like, okay, no, I've recognized these from other shows. We know anime has the big expressive eye sometimes, and they do all that. And Hunter, again, that's my only reference. It's just so many things they do where they switch up the animation, and it's just really cool. I'm trying to think, like, I don't even know if I want to explain the scene, because I don't know if it might sound stupid, and I don't even remember her name, but it was the last arc. One of Killua's butlers, the real big lady with the monocle, like the way she walks up and she's all in shadow, and then as they get closer, you see the full description of her face, but it's a glare, and they get closer and you see it's a glare coming off her monocle. And then when she's yelling at Killua, they draw her face big, taking up the entire screen, and Killua is like way smaller than her. So again, the way they express those things, of course, that's the only those are things you can only do in animation. So people that are fans of animation, people that work in animation, they'll all tell you it's a more free medium, because you can do things that you just can't do in live action. So them being creative with all those different things and how they show you, especially in Hunter, like all these different games and things we see, and they'll explain a concept and put the little like the smaller, like kiddier cartoon animations. Like I think when Gon was doing his, I forgot the name. I know it's rock paper scissors, but whatever it's called in their language. But they illustrate it with like a baseball game. So like stuff like that, I'm like, it's so creative and it's fun. And that I'm conflicted, because it's still you over explaining everything. So that I didn't love. And then I feel like some of the storytelling is just not cohesive. Like, again, I understand these things are told in arcs, and I understand that it's translated from the manga, I believe, and sometimes it's not done, and sometimes they're adding things, whatever. But it just felt, and again, this might just be a Hunter thing, like the arcs didn't always connect, and they introduce a ton of characters that never really stay around. And I just almost feel like if you're going to show me a character that's just kind of there, then just show them to me. Like, you give me this quick backstory, and again, this is this over exposition. You give me this quick backstory. My name is Duh, and I'm come from this place where we do this, and this is why I do this, because this happened to me, and so now I've been on this mission for whatever, and then they die 2 seconds later. Like, we do not need to do that. But at the same time, I credit them for thinking it through and having that creativity. So again, I'm not saying that anime is negative. I'm just saying, for me, it's confusing. It's tough. And with Hunter, it was some just great writing. It was some great writing. And that's why I'm so conflicted, because in certain aspects of writing, it's elite. In other aspects of writing, the way that I know it, it's like that is a total drop of the ball. And I get it. It's anime. It's on anime standards, but not for me. As a viewer, I'm only speaking about my experience with anime. As me personally, that's not the standards I know. That's not the standards I judge it against. So it was always back and forth. It was like, that was cool. I like the way they explained that. I like that story point, but also the way they're giving us this information, that's not the way it's supposed to go. So I know I talked a lot. Again, I'm a writer, so writing sticks out to me. I don't care what it is. So I know if you made it this far, you're probably like, oh man, it's all negative. It's not really all negative. Like I said, I really enjoyed a lot of it. And for me, I've heard people talk about Hunter. I really did not. So I'll just go through the arcs, and we'll just do it like that. So the first arc, I think for me, I might be in the minority. The Hunter exams, that's like close to the top for me. I won't say it's number one, but going through it again, like watching it, it could easily become number one. And I like this so much because there was no power system. Now, this is another issue that I had. So I liked it because it didn't have a power system. Now, I like to watch things alongside reactions. And I happen to find some reactors I like. And so once I watch episodes, then I'll go check out their reaction, blah blah. So anyway, they were talking about, and the only problem is the reactors, they're anime fans. So whenever they react, they're constantly comparing it to other animes that I don't know what they are. But anyway, one reactors that I was watching, they kept talking about the power system. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Now I should have known, because I know what a magic system is when you're talking about writing. And so it's the exact same thought process. But anyway, they kept saying power system. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't care. I was so locked into the Hunter exam, like the idea of the Hunters. Gone, like, he was okay. Killua was interesting. I liked the group together. I was more interested in who were the Hunters, what were the exams, like all those things. And then Hisoka was interesting too. So I was locked into that, and I just thought it was getting better and better and better as we went along. And then eventually we find out about Nin and the power system, and that pretty much takes up the whole rest of the anime. And that's fine. I guess that's the anime thing. That's what it's supposed to be. But for me, I liked it so much more when there wasn't a power system. Because I wasn't sitting here trying to like connect all the dots. I felt like once the power system was introduced, there was two issues. Number one, it completely undercut. Well, I won't say that. It takes away a lot of focus because, and I've heard that this is one of the more complicated or complex or comprehensive power systems. Whatever, it just completely takes a part of your focus, not all of it, but it takes a part of your focus because they throw so much at you, and you're just like, okay, I'm trying to remember all these different things, they all sound alike, blah blah blah. And then they in the what was it, I was about to say Heaven's Island, no, this Greed Island, was it Heaven's Arena? So that arc, like, was walking you through it, I think, pretty well. Once we left there, it started going off the rails. And I think one of my issues that I had with the power system and how much they rely on it is that it was too many continuity issues. And I think that plays into the bigger issue of trying to level up on the power scale. That happens, and to be honest, that's an issue that's happening right now with the MCU. And probably an issue they're having after Thanos. But each arc, it felt like, okay, we got to give a bigger threat. We got to up the, like, we thought this was like crazy on the power scale. Now we got to show you something even higher. And the problem with that is it undercuts everything from the last season. And as I said, it creates some continuity issues where it's like, oh, well, if they could do that, then how come no one did that before? Especially with the first season. I know I heard that it was written without a power system, and that's, you know, the power system came later. But again, still the issue persists that it undercuts the whole first arc, because we just were introduced as to these people as people. Gon and Killua with some kids that could do some extra human things. And then Kurapika as well. Kurapika. And then we start to see the hunters, and it's like, oh my God, they did this. And that's crazy. Like, that's crazy that that's happening. And as we continue to go on, we see people with different techniques, different fighting style, whatever it is. And it's like, man, like, we're really setting the stage. But then when you up the power scale the next time and introduce Nen, then you go back and like, okay, what they were doing wasn't that impressive, A. And then B, if they had Nen, how come they just didn't do XYZ? And that happens every arc that you go along. And to the point you get to the Chimera ant arc, which people love. I'm going to say I didn't love it as much. But I'm just like, the ants are learning Nen so fast, it makes it kind of not important. Like, it became oversaturated, because you gotta remember where we started. Again, we didn't even see Nen because it didn't exist. Then in the second arc, it's like, hey, the real hunter exam is you gotta learn Nen. Like, all the hunters know Nen, all the best whatevers know Nen. First, Hisoka already knows it, but also he's got a mysterious past, so we don't know. But by the time we get to the last arc, it's like you got people out here using Nen just for regular everyday things. It's like, who are these people? They don't even have they're not even hunters. They're just out here using Nen for like regular jobs and like regular occupations. So Nen gets so what's the word? Blanking. But I'll use nerfed. It's not even that it's nerfed. It's just not important by the end. Because the ants is what really threw it off for me. I get they evolve with each time. And you got I always mess these names up with the Royal Guard. But the cat one went through the one hunter and got the info. But the way they move, I just don't see them spreading that to all the other ants. Like, I feel like that's something they would have told the Royal Guards and the King, but they probably wouldn't told everybody else. But even if they did, like, it was just too quick. Because Kite left Killua and Gon to fight that one ant when we first see that. And that ant does not have Nen. Nen hasn't even been unlocked. Killua and them said if Kite and them wasn't here, we would never sense them. You're talking about Killua and Gon, who have been around the Phantom Troop, fought in Heaven's Arena towards the top level, fought Hisoka, like they are actual hunters, and so you're telling me the ants, both ants, because what was it, Colton or Colt, whatever, he was there too, and they never noticed him. So you're telling me they completely learned how to conceal their nin. I forgot what technique that is. And honestly, after the Phantom Troop, N became like the only thing that they really cared about. No, because they went to Greed Island. They talked about Ko and other stuff, but N kind of became the only thing that they really ever talked about. But whatever. So they completely concealed their presence from Gon and Killua, and they didn't even know what Nin was. So you can make the argument, okay, they got in, they learned fast, but they didn't even know what it was at that point, and they were still able to be advanced in it. So I feel like the Ant arc just made Nin so whatever. Like, obviously the best Nin users, or I should say the best, like, and strongest fighters or whatever in that world are also great Nin users. But it just kind of made it cheap to me, man. I don't know. And so over time, once they introduced Nin, that's just kind of what the whole focus of the series became. And I wish it wasn't like that, because again, I really loved that first arc. I thought it was so creative, and not to say that the other stuff wasn't creative, but I honestly think the best writing was in that first arc, where they didn't have Nin, and they didn't have to, like, they didn't lean on to every time we got a battle or every time we, meet somebody powerful. Is all about, okay, what lesson we're going to learn about Nin. So that's me personally. Heaven's Arena, really enjoyed that. Again, the Nin stuff threw me off, but I just really enjoyed that. I like the way that was written. Trying to think, like, the Hisoka stuff was great. Yeah, I think it was good. And then that was, what was it? New York, whatever they call it. I call it the troop, the auction arc with Karapika and everything. That was very interesting. But then the Phantom Troop came in and made it, like, that's one thing I didn't like looking back on it, but I guess that's just how Hunter is. Like, it'll introduce something like it's important, but then never follow up on it. So, like, we're following Gon and Killua, we're following Karapika, like, trying to get to the auction, get the eyes, and then Gon and Killua try to figure out how to make money in all these different ways so they could get a game or a Greed Island, and then boom, the Phantom Troop come in, and all those storylines are now gone. Now it's on the Phantom Troop, and the Phantom Troop was great. I thought that was cool. Carollo, though, like, we didn't see him after that. That was so disappointing. I know that's a take that a lot of people got, but in general, I don't like how much they introduced never to follow up on it. So, everything with that arc was great. I know some people, that's their favorite arc. Greed Island, I love way more than I think a lot of people that I've seen. I loved Greed Island. I loved I thought the bomber and stuff was really left field, to be honest. Like, kind of came out of nowhere. And I always feel the same way about anything that I watch. Whenever you introduce, like, big bads, like, they were supposed to be around, but we've never heard of them, it always feels weird to me. I just really, like, the way everybody reacted, you would have thought people would have known about this bomber, but whatever. And we see the Nin Exorcist never came back. So all that, like, the Greed Island stuff outside of the bomber part was excellent to me. Once they got to the end and fighting against the bomber, like, I thought it was good, but it wasn't as good or interesting as the other stuff, like stuff with Razor, Bisky, like all that. And Bisky was random too, but I liked it. I liked how it started off. how they had to audition to get in. Like I liked all of that stuff. I thought that was great. Not really finding anything else about or Gene being there was kind of disappointing, but I thought it was great. Then after that, that's the Chimera Ant one. I talked about that. I'm very mixed on that. Look, I get it. It's about evolution. It's about humanity. I get it. I don't even remember the king's name. I get it. The relationship with the human and all. I get all the allegories. I get all it. My biggest issue with the ants, besides like I talked about how it made Nin kind of not important. A lot of stuff was random. Also, same thing like I talked about, big bads. You like nobody was like foreshadowed, like on the watch for these Chimera ants. Like Kite knew about it. Like how many people knew about it? And if even one person knew about it, like nobody was monitoring this. Like what is going on? Like that's a huge threat. And so that the stuff with Netero, though, I think is probably what people love. Netero and going against the king and all that. And then obviously how it ended unsuspectedly with the king, all that. But my biggest issue is that it deviated from what we were here to do. Like from the very beginning, it was a simple premise. He wants to find his dad. And I feel like so many times we veered off that. And especially this ant one, it was because it was primarily about the ants. Like we got I just watched this stuff. I'm blanking on everyone's name. But we got to do with the big pipe and the smoke, and we got to do with the portals. They were cool. Like all like the characters we introduced is cool. Like the fights was good. Like I had no issues with all that. It's the overall narrative problems that really threw me. That's what I didn't enjoy. So that's that. And then the part with Gone at the end, I didn't love that. I didn't love the way, first of all, I didn't love the way, I get kind of why he had this attachment to Kite, but I didn't love the way he was going straight reckless over all that. And I get like why and how he ended up where he was, like just trying to risk it all after finding out that Kite is really dead, or he probably knew that, but he had to face it. So I get all that, but at the end of the day, that just wasn't my favorite arc. I mean, I liked it, but it wasn't my favorite arc. And then the last one, yeah, that's where you, again, back to this idea. You got these big, powerful, again, the power scale messes it up. Because with Aluka, it's just like, bruh, you mean to tell me at any point Killua could have went back home? He had hella connections. He could have got back home, and he could have did exactly what he did. You had the Chimera ants threatening civilization. You had the bomber possibly trying to kill them, and Killua left Greed Island. And I know the hunter exam was short because he knocked everybody out, but he completed a whole hunter's license and came back. In that time, he could have just went home to Alaka. He could have went in there, hey dad, I gotta talk to her, whatever, I want to make a wish. And then he could have grabbed her and then said, hey, I'm getting out of here with her. Like, he could have did this at any time. So to introduce this character of that level out of nowhere, and I know they were in the picture like in the at the end of the previous season, but still, that's not enough. That's not enough, because at this point it seems like there's nothing greater than her power. Like it seems like he could have said kill all the ants and they all would have died. Like that, just adding that in out of nowhere, I didn't like that, but that feels like the anime way. That feels like we're going to up the power scale, so we got to introduce some other new thing. But I like Gene. I like the politics. I'm more into that than probably the average anime fan. I love the way they lay that out. Now, dude ended up doing it just for fun. I didn't like that. I didn't like the whole Alaka part. Gone coming back felt, I wouldn't say cheap, because they did earn it, But I don't know, man. That arc, that that left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But I did love the meta part of the audience going off on Gene, like saying everything that we wanted to say about him. That was fun. Um, and yeah, as much as I, kind of complained a little bit about Nin, in that last arc, we didn't see no Nin. We barely saw any Nin. We have no idea what any of the Zodiacs could do. You got all these other top hunters that just got taken out by Hisoka. We have no idea what none of them could do. Also, I didn't understand what was going on with Illumi and that whole thing. Like I heard him say he wants that power. He wants to control Killua, but he just like I don't understand what his plan was in approaching that. I guess at the end of the day, they were trying to figure out what rules he knew that they didn't know so they can get control. And the thing was, there was no rules. Killua just had it like that. And so they didn't know that. And now, yeah. And I don't know. I just really unsatisfied with that arc. So that was my experience with Hunter. Y'all can tell me what parts are anime, what parts are just Hunter. Again, there is there's one or two animes that I might watch next. One of the two, not both. I just got to figure out which one I'm gonna watch next. And if I see the similarities there, I'll probably just say anime is not for me, because that medium and the way they tell stories is not within what I enjoy. As much as I think there's good stuff in there, it's probably just gonna be tough for me. And there is the cultural part too, like trying to figure out translations and like what different things kind of mean. Like it's just a different sensibility, and that's perfectly fine. Again, I'm not telling nobody they can't watch anime. I'm not telling nobody they shouldn't. I'm just saying my experience. I gave it a try. Wanted to give my honest thoughts, and so there it is. So go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about anime. What do you love about anime if you're an anime lover? If you're not into anime, why not? If you watch Hunter x Hunter, tell me what you think. Share it around, get the convo started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Thanks for listening.